Hello and welcome to Wake Up Our Faith. This is the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams with you every single Wednesday, live in the Standard Glass Studios at Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 FM. This show is streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Hope you guys will join us. Let us know where you're joining from. If you missed the broadcast, it's rebroadcast every Sunday on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 FM from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Also to our podcast, Wake Up Our Faith, on iTunes. This show is made possible by our corporate partners. We always want to recognize and thank them. Our newest corporate partner and good friend of the show is Melissa Thomas. Melissa Thomas is a financial coach, a speaker, and personal financial coach who helps people live intentionally by teaching them how to manage money God's way, or the way He intended. You can connect with her at melissathecoach@gmail.com or give her a call, 910-338-9612. Kevo.
What's up?
Happy Wednesday. Happy day.
Matt said I needed a haircut.
Hey, you picked on me a couple weeks ago for my haircut.
So next week I'll have a haircut. I've got all these to-do lists that are like 3 weeks overdue. Hair's one of them. I got to get a haircut because the gray starts turning like Captain Kangaroo. Starts going, woo. It's so weird to have.
It's like lightning bolts down the side, man. It's good.
It's awful.
No, but it gives you credibility.
Oh, yeah, right. It makes you look like an old fart. But anyway, haircuts, I got to get my tire fixed in my car and just on and on. But anyway, it's good to be here. So let's be happy, man.
Yeah. I need some happy, man. I need some happy.
Well, I'm here to deliver.
I appreciate it. I need it, man. I need it. I was telling you just before we went live, you have these days, and everybody has these days. And I want to share this just because I want people to know that, like, no matter where you are in life, you're not free of the attacks of the enemy.
Yeah.
Because the enemy is always kind of prowling around, wanting to steal your joy. And, sometimes you just got to go, hey, man, I ain't going to let you have it. I'm not going to let you have it.
That's right.
And you got to fight a little bit, man.
Yeah.
Throw a little right hook, get a little Rocky Balboa back on him,
That's right. Yeah, you got to stay you got to stay at least in the neutral zone. You can't go below that, because if you do, then it's a big old two-step to get back to joy. So from joy to neutral. Don't let yourself get below neutral.
Yeah.
And when you're getting there, and then it's like taking an exit off the highway, to the pity highway.
Oh, man.
And you don't want to take that exit, even if you're feeling drawn to it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
For me, and I think for a lot of people, it's really helpful to kind of remove yourself, just get rerouted in some truth. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that's really cool is God always has a way of delivering in those moments.
Yep.
Just what you need. Maybe it's a phone call from a friend, maybe it's a text message. But when you begin to see His sovereignty and lifting you up, just through somebody else's kind of love and grace and joy, like, man, that's just a great reason to give Him praise. So
absolutely.
Thanks for being that for me today, man.
Sure. You're welcome.
All right, man. So
I got you.
So today's show, we're going to kind of continue and parlay off of last week's show. We talked about what we want to phrase as accidental hypocrisy. I love that phraseology because we don't necessarily know that we're doing these things. We don't recognize them, but there's subtle areas where we're kind of stealing God's glory and resisting the fullness of His power. So I think it's an awesome thing to step into. And here's where it begins. Mm-hmm. We walk with people through the discipleship process, one-to-one mentoring, teach, instruct, come alongside. That's our MO. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of questions from people.
Yeah.
And one question it made me laugh because I probably asked it before, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But the question was this: can I fulfill God's purpose for my life, or can I fulfill my purpose without actually surrendering to God?
Fully,
right?
Yeah.
That's the question.
That was the question. Of course, I know the answer you gave, which is appropriate and right on target. But yeah, that's a great question. It's a question that comes from one of the things I could tell from that question just by itself that is coming from someone who is younger, even though I understand where it came from, but I would know that anyway because that is a question I and many of us have dealt with, especially in that transitional period from when you're looking to enter life from college and all that. And man, you just don't want to give up the things that seem right to you, and you feel like God's after you. Well, guess what? He's going to catch you because he made you and he loves you. Just let him do it. But so the answer to that question is absolutely not. You have to fully surrender, right? And that's how you answer. That's what we stand on that. So getting into that, what we want to do is instead of saying, sounds kind of pulpity,
Surrender.
pulpit puppetry. I said it. I did it.
Hello. Welcome to the show. Sorry.
Got to do what works.
Nick's rolling his eyes at us. He's like, what have those guys been drinking today before the show?
Joy.
That's right, baby.
Joy.
I've been drinking from Joy. Cup.
So really what we do is we get up under the common phraseologies and ideas because a lot of people just camp out there. So what we want to talk about in that, to answer that question, is what is surrender?
Yeah.
And what it's not. And, what does it mean to fully surrender to God? I mean, I think the idea was I don't want to become a monk.
Right.
Right. And and of course we just kind of teasing this. This is a friend and a young guy. Just we love him to death. But yeah, I mean, these are things that go through young people's minds when they're looking at their future. And so, yeah, I mean, is God saying be a monk? No. So, I mean, I don't even know if those were legit back then. We all need quiet time, but
right.
the haircut and all that's pretty bad. So what is surrender is really what we go after. When people ask us those kind of questions, we answer it firmly and joyfully, but also we get up under it to help them see what it actually looks like.
I think the interesting piece here to kind of parlay on that, Kev, is that, when we begin to speak with people about what we do, discipleship, helping people live out their heavenly call, they say, well, does that mean I got to lose everything? Do I mean have to leave everything? The automatic challenge is they create this cartoon in their head of what that looks like.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing is the church doesn't talk about this because of that cartoon,
right.
Because the church doesn't want to offend anyone and send them away.
Right.
But if you open up the Bible,
they'll lose their loose change.
Exactly. It very, very, very candidly, clearly, Jesus says, if you would come after me, deny yourself, take up your cross and follow.
Right.
But we go, well, he doesn't mean that, but we posture this kind of answer.
Yeah, in a Southern way too.
Yeah.
Like that.
But it takes away God's power.
It does. It's like when God does something really kind for you, and of course everything he does is, but for instance, the other day, God moved someone to give me a very incredibly new surfboard.
Cool story.
Yeah, and thing is this guy is he's got a heart for God like few people I've met. I mean, I feel like he's one of us, but he's still growing and ready and hungry. But he said, man, before we even connected or met, I took that thing out of the shed because I felt like God was telling me I'm about to do something with that board. Now it's a board. I had a 30-year-old surfboard that someone gave me, and I was happy with that until a certain point. I thought, all right, Father,
yeah,
I'm gonna wait on you. But here we go, and this it's made by a much better shaper and all that. Point is I didn't ask for it. God moved him, and he gave it to me. And all I want to say about that real quick is just checking the time is if I say try to make this reasonable, then what I do is I take credit away from God.
Yeah.
And there's no way this could have happened. God did it. Now that's a little thing, a little desire of my heart, but that's an example of, well, this happened and that, over there and that, it could have thought about it this way and maybe you hinted at it and that it
didn't happen.
But what that does is that takes away credit from God.
Yes.
Who is that good.
Yes.
You know, so we're all about saying, man, he's that good and he'll do everything for you if you give him your heart. And back to the surrender idea.
Got to step in. And as your partner and friend, I mean, I have to say, you showed me pictures of a surfboard you were looking at, and you said, "God, this is what I'm believing God for."
Yeah.
You know, and you had this.
Yeah, and that's private between us.
Yeah, you had this desire in your heart, you know, and here this thing comes out of left field.
Yeah.
From him.
Yeah.
Which it shows his character off, so we give him credit. So that's just to tie that in, man. It's beautiful how that happened.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break, guys. You're watching and listening to Wake Up Our Faith. Matt Ham and Kevin Adams will be back for more right after this. Hello and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith, the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, live in the Standard Glass studio. Appreciate you guys tuning in, jumping on today. Already into a really fun and uplifting conversation. We'll continue that in a moment. Want to thank our corporate partners for making this show possible. One of those being Physical Therapy Services of Wilmington. That's ptservicesofwilmington.com. Serving southeastern North Carolina since 1983. Family owned and operated with more than 100 years of experience in the offices. Located in both Porter's Neck and 17th Street. Give them a call, 910-763-8286. So Kev, today, the question that we were posed with, that we kind of kicked the hour off, answering was can I fulfill my life's purpose without surrendering to God? The answer being absolutely not.
Yeah.
But what is surrender really? What does that look like? And and then stepping into that, kind of in a further, deeper layer or level there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think if you're been around a while, it's easy to kind of chuckle at the question. But if you look at the heart and the integrity behind asking that, I don't think that they're asking it in a way that they're trying to get out of it. They're asking really what's underneath it. What does that mean to me? What does that look like? I may be ready, I may not be ready, but I need to know where I'm going. I need to know what the challenge is.
Yes.
So I think that's the heart of the question. And so I love the integrity behind it. Just a sweet, good question. So we hold that in high regard.
Absolutely.
And look at it with.
It's not cowardly. It's just honest.
No, right. That's right. Yeah. So when you look at it from that place and you approach it, surrender is not going to prison. It's being set free. Jesus said it's the truth that sets us free. In his, maybe a little better phraseology, but that's, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So what we do is we force clarity in the same way that you would read a C.S. Lewis book and walk away and go, man, that's tough. But you keep coming back because it's the truth.
Yes. And
it's hard and all that stuff. So surrender is really, and this gets kind of deep, but I'm trying to keep it simple. We're made of three different sort of mechanical parts. One is our spirit, one is our soul, and one is our body or our temple that these things are housed in. And there's all kind of scriptural references. And so without getting into that, what we've got to learn how to do is let the Spirit lead. Now, that's a whole show right there, but that process is helping us let go of some things so that we can follow other things. So what that really looks like is, what is it that you're surrendering? Are you becoming a monk or, going Buddhist?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Losing everything, yeah.
Yeah, losing everything. And I've had people say that to me all the time, and that's not at all what that's about. So what it is about is learning to let go of the soulish things, and in particular, the will, our own will. And but what God gives us in return, and we don't let go of, are the pure desires of our heart. And a lot of times we get those confused, so we think, I got to get rid of all my desires instead of the will. Mm-hmm. So we can talk about that, but that's the problem that ends up with accidental hypocrisy.
Yeah. It's like the guy who wants to be a rock star, who says, well, if I follow Jesus or if I give my life to God, I could never be a rock star. No, that's not the truth.
Exactly.
That's not the truth.
Yeah.
I want to be a computer programmer, but if I give my life to God, he's going to make me into it. No, that's not the case at all. He will only enhance the desires of your heart and give them to you in ways you can't imagine.
Yes.
If you're willing, and I love what you said, and this is kind of a thing, guys, y'all can hold on to this, is that surrender is not prison.
It's not.
The current way of life is prison. Surrender is freedom from prison.
That's right.
And we've been convinced in our minds and by the world that surrender is some type of enslavement when it is actually the freedom that we long for.
It is. It's total freedom, because you can live with the abundance of heaven behind you and your dream. I mean, I've been living this way for at least 10 years. And I'm telling you, God is that good. But you got to have somebody who's lived it out to speak it truthfully. A veteran, not just preach and talk scripture. It all works together. But so the bottom line is God really that good? And if He is, wouldn't you want to step into that? Because He is behind you. He's for you. He's with you. It's not some guy wearing a robe in the sky.
Yeah.
He's in you, and He's in everything. So the point is surrender is just letting go of your will, which ultimately is the how. Is the how. Is
Yeah.
the how. I want to really get that in.
How.
Where we get stuck, it's a self-preservation mode. How? But how? And the enemy uses that to keep us from living out our why.
Yes. Keeps us stressed.
All we need to know is, what's that thing that just beats in us? And God will slowly, like peeling an onion, reveal it to us. And we've got to have the courage to step into that and let him do it, because he means to do it. And guess what? That's what you have the same goals. But if your how gets in the way, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? You'll never do it.
Yeah.
And we see that in great innovation in the world, that's kind of hijacked from God's original plan. But we see it. It works everywhere.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. You start howling this thing to death, you let the air out of your tires, and you kill your dream. It's not about that. God needs to be the how, because he needs the credit.
Yes.
And that's the big difference.
I have this hilarious picture in my mind right now. I went grocery shopping. Liz, my wife, is pregnant with our fifth, and she's not feeling well, which means I'm having to do more things that I normally don't do.
Sure.
One of those being grocery shopping. And I was at Trader Joe's.
Just go to the beer aisle.
Yeah, that's right. Just
Chips.
Give me some grace in this, Kev. But I was in the frozen food section, and I look at this bag staring at me, and it said meatless meatballs.
I've seen those.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
That's like godless purpose. It's like, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
That's great.
You know what I mean? It's like,
good.
it's like, if you want to eat meatless meatballs, then go for it. But I'm promised they're not meatballs. You can't call them meatballs. So if you want life that has purpose and meaning and value without God, you can't call it purposeful and meaningful and valuable.
Yeah,
so anyway, sorry, that's just
meatballs. That's a great, funny. That's my grandmother used to say. You made it funny.
You made it funny.
You made it funny. So see how we doing on time.
Couple minutes to the break here. I think the thing we want to draw out as we wrap into this this segment is, for someone who has created this picture in their head of what surrender looks like, we're turning that upside down. And you just said a great thing. It's about, like, that's actually what ignites your dream. It's what ignites your desire.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold it back. Just know that.
Right. Well, God wants you to have the desires of your heart. He says, if you delight yourself in me, which is surrender your will,
right?
Let go of the how, quit worrying about how it happens, I'll give you the desires of your heart. Our greatest example is Jesus. Jesus said, I came not to do my own will. Now, he's operating as a man in this capacity, but I came to do the will of my Father. That means they're different. That means that they don't always line up, and he has to make a choice. So he surrendered his will. A lot of people don't like that, but it happened.
Right.
And he did it in the garden when he said, I really don't want to do this.
Yes.
This is heavy. But nevertheless, your will, not my will, but let's go English. Thy will.
Right.
So anyway, Jesus gives us that, but he never left the desires of his heart on the table. Those were, and they work from very, very big 1,000-year vision to very specific today kind of things. And we can talk about that next segment. But Jesus' first mission was to please his Father. His second was to carry out his mission. And these are the desires of his heart, starting with rule number 1, aim to please your Father.
Yeah. And so I think that the encouragement for someone who's out there who's wrestling with this thing is just step in. Like whether it's trying a new food or whether it's swimming. I mean, my kids, you teach them to jump off the side of the pool to your dad who's in the pool.
Yeah.
They can't do it until they do it. They can't do it until they do it.
Yeah.
And so you can stand on the side of the pool, you can stay out of the water all you want to and worry about all the different stuff, or you can just take that faithful step.
Right. Yeah, it's not reckless. It's complete confidence that God is who he says he is. So, got a lot more to dig into this. So we'll do it.
We're going to take a short break, guys. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, Wake Up Our Faith. Want to encourage you to check out the Portable Faith Community, our way of staying connected with you and encouraging you each and every weekday. WakeUpMyFaith.com. Hello, and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith. This is the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside-down living. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams with you live in the Standard Glass Studios at Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 FM. We are the co-founders of Uprint, a faith and personal development organization based right here in Wilmington, helping people bridge the gap between Sundays, discover their why, thrive in their gifts, and live the life of impact they were created for. That's what we're here for. This show is a part of that process. Appreciate you tuning in. One of the things we want to recognize, or some of the people we want to recognize, are our corporate partners who help make this show possible. One of those being Chris Hutchins and his team at Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. Chris has more than 20 years experience in the mortgage business. I've heard it's just gangbusters right now. A lot of good stuff going on in the market. If you're looking to buy a home, refinance a home, Chris Hutchins at Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. New offices over PT's Grill, right off of Military Cutoff there. 910-344-0304 is their phone number. So, Kev, let's continue diving into this today. We've had just a good conversation, and we're just getting started.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about some of the obstacles and ultimately how do people end up in this place of accidental hypocrisy when they don't realize that it's kind of a hypocritical or a contradictory way to live. And there are some contradictions you just go, man, I do it, and I'm sorry. You know, that's like we abide by the law, but then we go and speed and every day probably without realizing it. So, you know, we're not, you know, not all lies are bad. I'm not going to tell somebody got bad breath just because I can. I mean, that's stupid, right? So we're moving out of this real black and white area into something that is significant. And that's where we're saying we got to take a stand on this. So surrender, the kind of prompt question about, you know, this idea of how, do I fully surrender? Do I have to fully surrender to God to live out my purpose, my dream, the dream in my heart? And the answer is absolutely. But let's double check what surrender is. And so we were coming back around to really unpack that, and I think we started to do that. So anyway, there's the context again. And, but, you know, I think today's text is a good way to help launch into our next couple of segments here. You know, what does surrender do? Well, here's an idea, and I'll just read it. In fact, it's one of my favorites, you know, since we've been doing this. But two of the most extraordinary gifts God has given you are the ability to dream and the inability to fulfill that dream without Him. So the questions that we've got on here are you focused on your God-given dream or distracted by how it will be accomplished? One question. Are you focused on the beautiful outcome or distracted by who gets the credit? So these are challenging thoughts. The point is God gave you the ability to dream. He gave you a dream, but He gave you also, which is a gift, the inability to fulfill it without Him.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
I keep thinking about Joseph in prison. You know, you have this kid, Joseph, who's the apple of his father's eye, in Jacob, you know, Israel. And he has these dreams. He has this incredible gift as a young man of just seeing visions and kind of being tethered to. But he runs off at the mouth and starts to subject his brothers to him. And
look at me.
Yeah. And
look at me.
And look at my pretty robe that my daddy gave me. But he ends up spending, he spends his majority of his life in prison. And, you know, because of his unwillingness. But God wanted to show him, you know, that, hey, listen, you have this great gift.
Yeah.
And I've called you into authority.
Yes.
But I'm gonna love you enough to let you sit in prison.
Yes.
And realize that it will not be accomplished without me.
That's right.
But the loving God that He is, after the time had passed, brought him into vice presidency, if you will, of Egypt and second in command.
Yeah.
And so this is a testimony and a legacy and a biblical hero that we see lived out in culture today.
right.
But so many people are unwilling to go through that prison season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And interesting, like you said, prison is not surrender, but you have to go through the wilderness of laying down of your own understanding.
Yeah.
And that's what God does in that season, is He gives you new life.
Yeah, you've got to be able to see beyond your immediate circumstances. I mean, God gives us really helps us understand this from a different perspective. You know, count it all joy, be thankful in all things, be thankful for all things, over and over. Think on these things. So, what does all that really mean? And so it helps our mind learn to surrender, because we have a physical or visual demand of our circumstances every day.
Yeah.
And we turn it into what if and magnify stuff that may never happen. So we've got over here a demand of circumstances, and which is very conspicuous. And then over here we've got the demand of our faith, which we stand on in the foxhole or in the elevator church talk. But the demand of our faith is inconspicuous. Now, which holds the greater value in your life? At some point, you've got to deal with that. So whether you're 25 or 65, at some point, the more productive life you can live once you deal with that.
What's driving the ship for you, your circumstances or your faith?
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
You're given the wheel, proverbial wheel of your life, over to your circumstances and your own understanding, or you're giving it over to your faith.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way to argue this. So what people do is they run. Well, I don't want to go sit in a chair and pray all day. Well, we're not saying that. What kind of life is that? I mean, if you want to do that, awesome, do it. That's stupid. I mean, I'm making a cartoon out of it. So God has given you purpose. All right. So what we talked about last segment was how that looks from a desires of the heart perspective. So these things are like a building, and the foundational piece is your greatest desire, and it works up, and you always have to go through that. Seek first the kingdom of God, His righteousness. You go through that, and all these things will be added to you. So all these things ultimately end up in little things like, man, I want to live near the water, or I just like hamburgers. I'd like to eat some more hamburgers. I mean, stuff like that sounds silly, but when you go all the way to the top of the building, it gets very specific, and everything is God's beautiful gift, father to son or daughter. But all of that helps you bless other people with your gift set.
Yeah.
So foundation. And so we can talk about what Jesus' greatest desire was, and then specifics.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thought, and you go wherever you need to go. My brain was lingering in back into this accidental hypocrisy and the comment you made about people just running. I had this Bruce Springsteen Born to Run in my head, and it's just like, I want to play that song all the time, because it seems like when you get people to a point where they're going, I'm in.
Yeah, well, let me touch base on that. I think you're right, and that's a really important thing. It's not that people don't want God. It's just they think it looks like this, like that whole thing we were talking about earlier. It's like going into prison. It's like, man, I got to submit to all these rules, and that's not it at all. Not at all. And I'm ashamed that we've brought our worldview of Christianity to this place. It's not at all. It's like the greatest freedom there is. So, but one of the things I have a picture of, it's like when we run into people, it's like, I made a note earlier, just had this picture of it. It's like trying to feed a starving dog, but he won't let you get near him. You got a plate full of steaks, and you just want to give them to the starving dog, but he won't let you get near him because he thinks you're going to take the only little morsel he's got left. And that's how we are with God.
Oh, man, what a good picture.
God's ready to give us everything to fulfill His desire and our desire, which He made. And we just are trying to hold on to a morsel instead of that. And we're growling at him or running away. It's crazy.
That's such a good picture, man. That's just such a good picture. I immediately heard somebody said, "We saying I'm a dog, man?" Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I'm saying be humble
Sure.
enough. Be humble enough to see yourself as that dog. Is hungry for something greater. But why would you growl at the one who's bringing you everything?
Yeah, and it's just a picture of our maybe you're not a dog, but we're not a dog. It's your heart acts like that.
Yes.
Or your mind. But that's a picture, and we run into it all the time, and it makes this work very difficult. We've got people that say I'm in, and I need that, or they're going through a major problem in their life, and they're ready to go, and as soon as something good happens, they go, "Oh, I'm gonna get to it later."
Yeah,
I know what you're doing is good, and I'm gonna get to it later.
Yeah,
but just. It's hard.
It is. We'll talk about some of those obstacles after the break. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, you're listening to Watching Wake Up Our Faith. Back right after this. Hello and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith, the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside-down living. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, live in the Standard Glass Studio, Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Many thanks to Nick Craig in studio producing the show this week and every week to bring this to you. Live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also podcasted at Wake Up Our Faith on iTunes. We want to make sure we recognize our corporate partners, one of those being Freeman Landscaping. This is the largest privately owned land and irrigation firm in eastern North Carolina. Family owned and operated since 1992, offering both residential and commercial landscaping and irrigation. If you have any needs in that capacity, make sure you call Freeman Landscaping, 910-796-1166. Kev, jumping into the final segment of the first hour today. In the second hour for our Faith in Business segment, we're going to be joined by Stephen Sasser of Title Wellness, just to let our listeners know. But wrapping up kind of this first hour about subtle hypocrisy or accidental hypocrisy and what does surrender look like, and kind of this common themology in our head that the world has taught us that, you know, Christianity is oppressive and it's prison and all this kind of crap that we don't need to believe anymore. What are some of those obstacles that that we see that people should begin wrestling with as a way to break free?
Well, I mean, they're classic. They've been around forever. It's a yeah, but yes, I believe that, but this, and what we've got to not do is add a but to God's word. We just don't have any right to do that, but we still do it. So there you go. But we need to add a but to man's word, you know. So, but that's one of our principal.
Give God more than your butt.
Right. But you know, I have no time. I mean, it's crazy, really, to think about that. You really believe there is a God? He's smarter and way more clever and more powerful. In fact, he made you. So. When you think that through, see, people won't do that. Not everybody, but that's the struggle. So, but these are the classic contradictory landing zones that people jump into so they can walk away and get back to their secure, comfortable life instead of growing, you know? So hang on to your morsel. You know, we talked about the dog. Don't take my morsel. Well, I was going to give you like a whole cow, you know, or whatever. But I have no time. I think one of the things we found is that time is huge. Time is even bigger than money or those types of resources. We dedicate hours and hours and hours of our time just to help people see this. And then when they do, man, it starts to happen. It's incredible. But not everybody does. You know, so that's the struggle. But I have no time.
I think one of the things on the time thing, I just want to add a thought to that.
It's important.
It's not that you don't have time. Just be honest with yourself to say, I genuinely don't have an interest. Because you give your time to what you're interested in.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that as a dad to 3 kids and running an insurance agency, this is 5 or 6 years ago now, I would have said I didn't have time for God, but I was spending 2 hours training for triathlons.
Yeah. Right.
I blocked my whole schedule off for 2 hours to do this thing, but didn't have time for God. And the underneath it is just be honest with yourself that you're not valuing it enough to give it the time that it's due.
You're applying moderation to your faith. You're living like God is more powerful than you, but not quite as smart. And we got to get over that. There is no moderation when it comes to this because he didn't have any moderation when he paid everything for us and made us. So there's just no way around this if you're a believer. If you're not, you know, again, it's like, hey, we love you and we're here to help or whatever. But if you are a believer, quit calling yourself that if you're not going to jump into this. And that's my rub for today. But I have no time. I hate to read. Well, guess what? You can listen to Scripture on your phone or iPod or whatever. You don't have to read it. I like to read it and write it because it gets it in me. But the big thing is you've got to emotionally connect with it and get it locked in. So, but we hear all these things, you know, like some of our books are even audio files. So listen to it if you don't like to read, but don't be a baby. Just jump in, and that's said with a hug. But I have no time. I hate to read. I can't relate to Scripture. Wow. Well, you're not relying on God to illuminate it because it's not theology. that's going to do it, or Harvard education, or Dallas Theological Seminary that's going to do it for you, or some clever commentary.
Yeah.
You've got to get in there and trust God to illuminate it. I have to be careful with my life, so that goes to all these other areas. But I can't, I got to be careful. So what you're really saying is, like you just touched on a minute ago, people are saying they believe in God, but they're not really believing God. That's a big old gulf between those two things. A lot of people believe in him, but very few people actually believe him. Let that sink in. Do you believe him? Because he says a lot of good things that you can stand on and live your life on, and you will live out who you are, and you'll be so satisfied and happy with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, one other thing I want to tie back in to the time piece. I have no time, since that's the number one thing, is, one of, I think it's actually in my book, but one of the texts we sent out, probably time to send it out again, but a lot of people would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to have a mentoring session with Bill Gates. If Bill Gates was going to call you, or who you plug in whoever hero you want, you'd get up and you'd do it, right? But think about this. You're a believer now. The one who made Bill calls every morning, every day, but most of us just let it ring. That's, we got to reconcile that.
Yeah.
Either you don't believe or you do. And if you do, the one that made Bill is calling you. Listen.
Yeah.
It's
funny. You just created an image in my head. North Carolina, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, they played basketball the other night against Virginia. And Michael Jordan, who we're big fans of Michael Jordan around here, hometown of Wilmington.
Yes.
Michael Jordan was at the game.
Okay.
And so when he's at a game, everybody's eyes.
Sure.
Jordan's in the building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he's Michael Jordan. It's this icon.
Elvis of basketball.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is that why do we not have the same type of affection for our God who longs to meet with us every morning?
Like, who made Michael.
Exactly. We're like, oh, there's Michael Jordan. Like, no, the God of all creation lives within you.
Yeah.
He wants to speak with you this morning.
Yeah.
You start attaching that level of emotion to your Heavenly Father that you attach to all these worldly heroes.
Yeah.
And that's why we get around famous people, or I think, oh my gosh, hi, I'm Matt, whatever.
Yeah.
That's that.
Yeah,
crazy.
And it's because people have to learn how to see with their heart from their spirit instead of their eyes. And God says that. He tells us, walk by faith, not by sight. Well, to the average person, that's like trying to say you've got to learn how to watch TV out of your elbows. It doesn't work the way you think it does. It's different. It's something that you have to let him show you how to do. But you got to be willing to take a baby step, and then another one, and then all of a sudden you're rocking and rolling, and you're living from heaven into the earth, and you're blessing people, and you're excited about it.
Yeah,
it's not going to church. It's not about that.
Yeah. One of the things that as we wrap up the first hour here, Kev, I want to let people know what we've created as a way to help people start this process.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that we invite those that listen to this. Is we have, we both have been around faith for many years. You longer than I, because you're more mature than I am. And but the beauty in that is, we see that people need encouragement on a daily basis. They need consistency.
Right.
And we see that people are spending the majority of their time right here in their devices.
That's right.
And so when Jesus literally went into the villages to deliver the good news, we wanted to create a resource that went into today's villages, which is the phones, and delivers a messaging. So we created the Portable Faith Community.
Yeah.
So as a starting point for somebody who really wants to begin to tap into who God is for real, expand and strengthen their faith, just share in a minute or so about why you felt so led to create that and how they can get plugged in.
Well, it's very quick. It's only a few lines of text. Comes out 5 days a week, so you don't have to get it Saturday and Sunday, so you get a mental break from it. But it's consistent. The point is we wanted people to just take a moment of their time and just have a seed to think about, and because most people even don't study anymore, or they hardly even do devotionals anymore, or they mail them in. So this was just a quick way to get right into the palm of your hand, and very personal, but it's very powerful. So these are not your typical theological thoughts or stuff you find off the shelf. These are amazing things that have come over time. And so the point is it helps support what we're doing. It's like the price of a cup of coffee, and but it's also a service, and I don't think you'll regret it at all. And it's dirt cheap. So
yeah, check it out, guys. Starting at $2 a month, wakeupmyfaith.com. Would love for you to join us in that. Kevin, fantastic first hour. We're going to jump into faith in business in our second hour. Stephen Sasser of Tidal Wellness. Come back for more right after this. Hello and welcome to Wake Up Our Faith in Business. This is the second hour of our show dedicated to how do we live out faith between Sundays, where we spend the majority of our time, which is in business. And business, as you might want to say, which is fine. We're fine with that. But Kevin Adams, Matt Ham, we're the co-founders of Uprint, and this is kind of a new thing for us to be able to highlight people, stories, inspiration, those in this community and communities everywhere that are pressing into living out what God's doing in their life and how He's expressing it through their gift sets as a way to keep you inspired and encouraged to pursue the dreams on your heart and let God unfold that for you. This show is made possible by our corporate partners. We want to make sure we thank them. One of those being Chris Riley, our good friend Chris Riley, and the team at Fountain Financial Associates. They are in the business of giving clients and families a better life, and say they're in the business of keeping promises. Make sure you give Chris and the team at Fountain Financial Associates a call if you have any financial questions or needs. 910-256-8882. As you can see, we're joined in studio by Mr. Stephen Sasser, Dr. Stephen Sasser, right?
That's right.
That's right. Dude, you work for that. We're going to call you doctor.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but yeah, it is Dr. Sasser.
That's it. Absolutely.
Very big deal.
It's a very big deal. We're not doctors.
Yeah, no way.
Just dudes. Oh, man. But Dr. Yeah, that's right. Dr. Stephen Sasser and his wife are the owners, operators of Tidal Wellness here in Mayfair, right here in Wilmington. My wife and I had the privilege to walk with you guys last year, use your services, and was just so impacted by kind of how you're navigating this, Stephen, what you...
Insurance and paying every time you come in for a visit is it's a monthly fee. And with that monthly fee, we give our patients direct access to us. They get our personal phone number. They can text us. They can call us. And then for visits, there's no copays. There's no extra fees. It's just if you need us, we're there for that month. And then by not taking insurance, it gives us a lot of flexibility to offer cheaper labs, cheaper medications that we give right out of our office. So there can be a lot of financial benefits for people. And it's also just more of a relationship that we get to have with our patients, which is the biggest piece to us.
Yeah, super cool. And what I love about it, too, is you guys take a holistic approach to medicine and health. And, you know, again, this is a Christian show. I mean, we're all believers here, so that's what this is about, too. So talk a little bit about that and how you and your wife and integrate that into your business.
Sure. So we use the term integrative family medicine, and there's a lot of different terms you might hear out there, but we like the term integrative because what we do is we use both traditional medicine, so that's drawing labs and ordering tests and x-rays and doing medications, but we also take into account some of those other modalities or some Eastern medicine modalities, such as acupuncture, massage, but also essential oils, herbs, and that sort of thing. The reason that we do that is, one, because they work. We used not to know, or there wasn't the evidence there, and now there is evidence. So we do use evidence to guide everything that we do, and there's some things that don't work, and we don't recommend those things. But we're able to use all those different modalities, educate ourselves. And one piece is that they're so separated in the current system. So it's either you're going to a doctor or you're going to something else. And a lot of times the doctors may say, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's a good idea. You can do it if you want to, but they don't really know much about it. They don't know what it can do, what it can't do. They don't know some of the safety things with it. So, you know, essential oils, people are going to use essential oils whether the doctor is okay with it or not. And so we've taken it upon ourselves to educate ourselves so we know what medications interact with certain oils. So if nothing else, it's a safety thing that we can guide our patients on. But there's also the integrative piece of emotional health, mental health, that's not just physical health. And so we are open with our patients about our faith and are able to talk with them about it and recommend things like, you know, I don't necessarily speak to my patients in a meaningful way. We may not have that best connection that maybe a Joyce Meyer sermon might do, that she speaks a lot to anxiety, depression, you know, through a biblical sense, and that can help my patients out a lot besides just medicine. So we're able to also know all those resources and help to guide our patients that way as well.
Yeah. Gabby, anything?
Always. First of all, Steven Sasser is a really cool name. I like that.
It flows, man.
We're friends already. No, I think, man, what a great way to be God's expression in such a needed area. It's toxic. And, I'm a 52-year-old guy, been around the block and done all kind of things. What you're doing is so needed, not just in this community, but everywhere. It's time for that. So, man, thank you for honoring God and just going, because it does take courage. You're pushing the envelope, and there's some really good folks out there that are kind of moving in that direction. But anyway, so I'm really glad to know you, and we need to engage your services as well. My wife and I absolutely believe where you're coming from. So my question would be, Well, first of all, let me put some context around it. Something you touched on. It might not be a Joyce Meyer sermon, but you are still engaging in evangelism and discipleship through your gift set, through the opportunity God's given you. A lot of people think it means preaching from the desk, beating people with a Bible at the office. You're an example of how to do that through your gift set. So if you talk about that and your heart about it, that kind of thing, we'll do it again when we come back.
Yeah.
So we really like having relationships with our patients. And that's one of the biggest, that's how you have trust. That's how people trust you and to follow your advice. That's how you really know them, to be able to guide them the best way. And working in a traditional system that we have done, I wasn't able to treat patients the way that I wanted to be treated, how I would want to be treated. And I've been to doctors myself and not been treated the way that I would like to be treated. And usually it's not the doctor. Usually it's not the nurse. It's the system that they're in that doesn't allow them the time that they really need to devote to you. Doctors right now in the traditional system, they spend 70% of their time doing paperwork, not having their hands on a patient or talking with a patient. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so our model has allowed us to spend time with our patients, to spend 30, 60 minutes talking with our patients, getting to know our patients. They text us, they call us, even not with questions, just with good celebratory things sometimes. So it's a relationship, and that's what we really strive for.
Jesus was into relationships, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
It's amazing. It's amazing to think that he was actually into relationships, and so we should model that in our work.
What a thought, man! Wow.
I love it, Stephen, because and just you and your wife too. What I think is beautiful about it is you are a family, and so you're navigating with other families, and so it has this really family feel. I know that my wife would be able to text your wife, and that relationship develops and so forth. It's just, it really, I speak to that from experience, and that's something that we experience that's very powerful, to be able to have those connection points, because it's so needed in business. One of the things that we say often is that Jesus would have said, hey man, it's not personal, it's just business.
He wouldn't have said
that. Yeah, that's why he wouldn't have. Did I say he would have?
Yeah.
Oh, well, slap me.
All right.
Slap me. Jesus would have never said.
He would have never said that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But we walk around.
Everything's personal at some point.
We walk around going, well, it's just the system, and, I'm sorry, but this is just the way it's got to be, and that's garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. How are we doing on time here?
Yeah, we got about a minute for the break. And after the break, I want to jump into this fighting the status quo. That's the part of this that I love. It's just like this little rebel.
We love that, man. Push the envelope, break it down.
Just going upstream.
So we got a few seconds here, but I want you to when we come back, I guess, get into how how you chose to do this by faith, and how your heart really led you to do it. I'm guessing, but so jump into that.
Yeah. So, Stephen, before we go to break, share real quick how folks can connect with you guys.
Sure. So our website's the best way. So www.titlewellness.com. You can also give us a call, 910-302-8002. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so you can follow us there as well.
Tidal Wellness, Tidal Wellness. And this is Dr. Steven Sasser, the guest in studio today for the second hour of our show, which is Faith in Business. Wake up our faith in business. We appreciate you guys tuning in and turning on here. We're going to come back after the break with more kind of inspiration from Dr. Sasser, just about how he got this started, how he stepped into his dream as a way to encourage you guys to do the same. We want to invite you to participate. You can connect with us, info@uprint.life. We'll be back for more right after this. Hello and welcome back to another segment of Wake Up Our Faith in Business. This is for those of you who are in businesses, leadership positions, or entrepreneurs looking to integrate the power of God into where you spend the majority of your time, and that is in your businesses. And so we have interviews and encouragement and teaching to help you do that in a powerful and profound way. Today we're joined live with Dr. Steven Sasser. He and his wife are the owners and creators of Tidal Wellness, which is a fantastic model. Steven kind of broke into that in the first hour or the first segment. But I want to, Stephen, I have a question, but before we do that, I want to recognize our corporate partners for making this possible. One of those corporate partners is Chad Honeycutt and the Honeycutt Group. This is a family-owned and operated insurance brokerage firm right here in Wilmington with more than 10 plus years of experience. Chad and his team are happy to help with any of your insurance needs, home, auto, life insurance. Feel free to give them a call, 910-338-1775. 7-3. So, Dr. Sasser, Kevin had asked for you to expound upon kind of how you got into this. How did you follow that thing that God put in your heart? Kevin, add whatever you need to, but I wanted to re-bring that up.
Sure. So kind of as I mentioned earlier, it was we were in a system where we didn't get to treat patients the way that we wanted to be treated. And to give some examples of that, you'd want to do certain things. I remember one place we were working, my wife wanted to order an HIV test on a patient, and the administration told her no, and said, we don't do that here. And we're like, we don't understand. Like, the patient needs it. Like, what's the big deal? Like, and what it was, she was putting the stigma on it that society had put on it, that it's not a big deal, or that it was a big deal, but it shouldn't have been. And they're like, they should go to the health department. We're like, no, we can treat this. We're caring for them. We do it all the time. Like, why are you stopping us? We want to spend more time with patients, but I always had 2 patients waiting on me in 2 other rooms while I was seeing the patient, and I'm just sitting there looking at the clock the whole time. Like, okay, I gotta cut this patient off. I mean, they're trying to tell me the story, but I can't listen to it. I don't have time. I've got to find a way to cut them off so that I can finish the visit so I can get to the next person. And it's just, we just weren't caring. We weren't being able to care the way that we wanted to, and that bothered us. Kind of one thing that I always think about when we're making business decisions, there was, I've heard this sermon done couple different ways, but I think Stuart Hall did it the best, if you've heard him speak. But a sermon about channels, basically TV channels, and how there's all these different channels. And so, like, we have our sports channel, and you watch sports on that channel, right? And so then we have the Food Network, which we all love, and then we watch food on that channel. And then we have, movie channels, and there's all these different channels, and they all have a different purpose. And that's how we tend to act in society. So when you're at work, you're being business. And when you're at church, you're acting like you would at church. And when you're playing on your flag football team, you're acting like you're supposed to in sports. But that's not how we're supposed to act. We need to pick a channel and stay on that channel no matter the context or situation in life that we're on. And that's what I think about when we're making business decisions, when we're treating patients, is, what am I doing here? Am I behaving the same way I would to people I care about, to people I love? If I'm not doing the right thing. And so there's business decisions that we could make that would maybe be more advantageous, but they're not in line with that channel that we've picked.
Man,
integrity.
It's courage, integrity, vulnerability, humility, and empathy. It's all one thing, all lived out. It's Jesus lived out through what you guys are doing and his version through you. It's beautiful, man. But that takes courage to you make those decisions. They're not about the dollar. They're about really, really loving on somebody through that means. And gosh, we just want to promote that. Please check these guys out. What a blessing. So anyway, lots more questions. But
I love that that piece of integrity and being
more of this.
Unwilling to yield. Well, I think we're at a place in culture where we just need to see the power of God lived out through others.
That's right,
and that's what we want to highlight. That's
right,
and that's the common kind of heart here. Stephen, one of the things that I cannot shy away from is how there was this system in place that you knew you didn't, it didn't feel completely right to you. And stepping out, it looked very risky, I would imagine. I mean, people are going, what are y'all doing? What do you mean an integrative wellness practice and a membership thing? You're like, what is that? So talk about the rocks that people threw at you, choosing to follow what you knew God had placed in your heart for you and your wife, and kind of how God was faithful in the process of bringing you to where you are now.
Sure. I think, those rocks are still being thrown. I feel like when you step outside the status quo, it's scary to do. There's risk. And this business, it's a family business. And so we are invested our entire family into it. And so there's a financial risk there. There's our social or livelihood, everything is at risk with our business, like a lot of other people do. So some of the status quo that you're kind of coming against is it's a system that's been built over decades and years to be a certain way, and it is that certain way, but that doesn't necessarily make it the right way. It's just the way that it is. And so I think it's important that we, no matter what sector of life or business that we're in, that we take a step back and look at what you're in, whether that's a system or business, and yeah, this is the way that it is, but is this how it should be? And we said no, it wasn't. And so that's why we picked something different. And this model allows us to, we're just able to help people. We're there to be there for them. There's no one really telling us no. It's us just finding ways to help people better and better. And whether that's helping them feel better physically or help them save money financially, it's the healthcare system doesn't really make sense financially. And if you look at it from a business standpoint, economical standpoint, from supply, demand, and fixed cost and variable cost, like people can't give you answers. When you talk to CFOs and CEOs of hospitals, and no one knows the answer. To find out why does this cost this much, it's hard to get a true answer. And where did that come from? Well, that was the price that was negotiated. That's essentially what, and it just doesn't make sense. And so there's even, besides just us, this is a national movement. It's kind of a grassroots movement of physicians. In Oklahoma, there's a surgery center that does cash only as well. And people are flying there from around the nation because it's saving them so much money to have surgery there, because they can call and get an exact price. And whereas through your insurance company, you can call 10 different people and get 10 different answers about what it's going to cost. And then after it's all said and done, you get a bill that's completely different than what you got told.
Man, you're really hitting it, man. It's just, I'm so glad. I can't get over how important this is. So, I mean, we got to have this fella on here as much as you want to be, because it's just such a big need. But I think the rock throwing, you were able to overcome those things, and that's something we've encountered, and it is hard to break the mold, but it's the only way to come up with the next thing. It's like Martin Luther going against selling indulgences 500 years ago. Well, we have to kind of do that every so often. So you're doing that your own way, and I just want to encourage you. I mean, we got lots of questions, but how are we doing on time?
Good. We got about a minute and a half for this next break. The thing that taps into this for me, the thing that I see here that I want our listeners and our viewers to see is innovation.
Yes.
And that's what you're tapping into, right? When you see a problem in culture that stirs your spirit and you burn for that thing, you go, I got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Where does that come from, right? God planted that thing in you for you to be the solution, right? This is that U-shaped hole in history that we talk about. So, Stephen, how have you seen that? We got just a few minutes here. And what are your thoughts on that thing?
God talks to us and speaks to us in different ways. And I think the way that kind of got set in me was by God sending me my wife. She's very black and white. It's either right or wrong. And, she has that very strong conviction. And so when I met my wife, wasn't as on a straight arrow about a lot of things. I hadn't picked that one channel that I was following. And her getting into my life with her straight black and white, it's either right or wrong, really fixed a lot of those things and set my heart in a better direction.
Wow. Yeah. That's cool, man. We'll come back. We'll have you join us in another segment and kind of wrap up some stuff. Are you good with that?
Oh, fine.
Okay, cool. We got to go to break here in a second. Guys, this is Dr. Stephen Sasser. He and his wife are Tidal Wellness right here in Mayfair in Wilmington, North Carolina. I've really enjoyed this. We're going to dive into more after this. You're listening to and watching Wake Up Our Faith in Business. Back for more right after this. Hello, and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith in Business, the show dedicated to helping you live fully and freely in who you have been called and created to be by God in between Sundays, where you spend the most of your time, that is in business. Joined in studio today by Dr. Stephen Sasser of Title Wellness. As always, Kevin Adams, Matt Ham here, kicking off this third segment in the second hour. Want to make sure we thank our corporate partners for making this show possible. One of those being Century 21 Swalyer and Associates, Southeastern North Carolina, and I think the Carolinas' largest real estate Century 21 agency. They do great work if you're buying, selling a home, or looking to get into the real estate business. Century 21 Swalyer and Associates. Make sure that you give them a call, 910-256-0021. Great conversation today with Dr. Stephen Sasser. Kevin, I know you had a question. Let's continue this convo.
Yeah, well, I think I like to just kind of stir the pot up and then let this guy just speak to it. But that's that idea. We were talking about it in between in the break. In the context of having rocks thrown at you and having to make hard decisions and that kind of stuff. So you brought up some neat sort of places where you felt like you followed God and advanced His cause through even some what most people might consider simple things like the development of your logo, and so that takes a lot of courage and to go against the grain of culture. So just speak your heart and share that.
So I think a lot of people are afraid of not being politically correct, of saying things that's going to offend someone. And we're about doing what's right. And sometimes that might offend someone, but that's okay if it's what's right. We wanted our patients to know that about our faith, and we put that out there. It's on our website. We don't throw it in people's faces. And we certainly, and we don't ask everyone, hey, what denomination are you in when they walk in the door or anything like that. We treat everyone from all walks of life, no matter their faith. We don't treat anyone any differently. But we wanted people to know that if what they were looking for in a doctor was a Christian doctor, someone who was walking with God, that we were there. And we've had people call us and say, we chose you because I saw that about you on your website, which makes us feel good that we did the right thing. But as we went through the business process, there were certainly things and choices we had to make, like our logo or our name, that we felt we had to do the right thing, but that wasn't necessarily the right business thing. So from our logo, if you see it, the T in our logo is meant to look like a cross. That was very important to us. It didn't have to be a straight cross like you would see on a church, and it could be obscure, but we just wanted that kind of hint of a cross to be there so that people kind of knew. They looked at it and they knew that. And meeting with our marketing teams and things like that, there were a lot of suggestions to not do that. And that's because, there's crosses everywhere. It's kind of overdone. It's hard to be unique. It's, we could do so much cooler things if we went another direction and it would, aesthetically pleasing. And we said, no, this is important that people know who we are, and that T has to have a cross in it.
We said no. Yeah, love it, man.
Same thing with picking just the name Title Wellness. I could have been a little more egotistical and said Sasser Family Medicine, but it was important to us, again, so that people saw our name, that it conveyed a message, and that message with wellness is that we're going to be there with them to help them be healthy, not just treat them when they're sick, not just to give medicine and pills. To be there emotionally, to be there spiritually, to be there as their doctor as well, and physically. So, again, when you look at wellness, wellness can mean there's yoga studios that have wellness in their title. There's counseling services in town that have wellness in their title. So when you see Title Wellness, you don't necessarily know that we're a doctor's office. And does that hurt us from a marketing standpoint? I don't know. Maybe that's what we were told it might do. But it was important to us to stay true to that channel that we were on to give the message that we wanted to give.
Yeah. What a great example, man. The heart to do that. We just want to make sure that we convey this. Everybody's got this in them. Everybody's got the ability, desires of the heart that God's given you, that if you delight yourself in Him and you go, He'll give them to you. And these are all meant to honor Him and for you to be satisfied and bless others. And that's what changes a culture, a city, a nation. And so we need a whole lot more folks like Dr. Sasser. And but are there any specific questions that you have that we can get out there so we can help people not just be inspired by these folks, but to come visit?
Yeah, I want to ask one question, and then make sure we land on giving his stuff. Stephen, when did you know in here, right? And to our radio listeners, I'm pointing to my chest, that thing, right? That spirit. When did you know in you that, man, I ain't going to be able to continue down this path of standard medicine, traditional medicine, whatever? Like, I want people to understand the process, because a lot of times we walk with people who are navigating their desires of their heart, and they think, well, how long is it going to be? Is it going to be 10 years? Is it going to be 5 years? But I want to highlight the idea that God is creating and fulfilling a purpose in you that might not necessarily happened overnight, but it was a thing that was birthed in you. So when did you start to feel that thing that you would now know as this desire to stand against the status quo?
So I've always been more business oriented, more logical oriented. And my undergraduate degree was in healthcare management. I had plans of opening a practice long before I actually became a doctor. Really going back, it's kind of my wife that awoke that in me. I have a tendency of logically explaining things away when they're not maybe ethically, morally correct. Or when I see something, I like, well, in that situation, it was okay because of this. I think we do that. We make excuses a lot. Sure. You know, well, I would have been nicer then, but this was this was the championship game, so I couldn't be nice. Right. There's all these excuses that we make that we shouldn't. And again, my wife is so black and white that she kind of, being with her kind of hit me upside the head and got me back where, hey, no, that's not right. And I need to stop making logical excuses. It's what's in your heart that matters. Yeah. The other piece of that was just, again, seeing my wife when someone that you love so much, to see them hurt because of the system they were in and hurt emotionally because they can't give the care they want to give. That spoke to me more than what was going on directly with me, and made me reflect on my career as a physician as well. So
yeah,
that's what's going to matter in 1,000 years from now. Yeah. about his life. It is that what he just said. That's fantastic. I know you got another question.
And just to put context around, how long have you guys been married now?
6.5 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thought process is that there's a journey that you've been on, that all along the way, God's been putting like cornerstone, little markers that have led you to this point. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to make sure that we encourage our listeners that, along this process, you don't have to have it all figured out. Like we said in the first hour,
right.
How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? The logic thing, right?
Yeah.
God offends our logic.
He does.
And provides us an opportunity to trust Him, and then it ends up being better than we imagined in the first place.
Yeah, you don't see much logic in Scripture. All the breakthroughs come through, at the behest of God's will, not logic. Walls of Jericho, etc. So, but when you're wired that way, He did that on purpose. So to even go against that momentarily, so that you can reapply that and have it all work together. I mean, that's an extra dose of courage.
Yeah,
So
beautiful picture.
Congrats,
well, Dr. Sasser.
Man.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we're just huge proponents of you guys, of what you're doing. As we kind of wrap up your time with us on the show today, make sure our listeners know how they can connect with you and where they can learn more if they want to come and kind of meet with you guys, or what that process looks like.
Sure. So the best place for information is our website, www.tidalwellness.com, and that's TIDAL. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can email us, info@tidalwellness.com, and you can call us 910-302-8002. If you're not sure about our model, we do free meet and greets. So it's no cost. You can just call, make an appointment. We'll talk with you, help explain it, see if it's right for you. We also have an open house on March 19th, and there'll be about 15 vendors or so there. at our office. It is in Building 3 in Mayfair.
Reconnect with us before that March date, just so we can make sure our listeners are aware if anybody's local that wants to come out to that.
Sure.
I'm going to hold you to that because my brain, it'll be out there. But Kev, anything to wrap up? We got like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you from heart to heart. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for coming on and just giving us another example to put God's will on display in our community. Thanks.
Well, I appreciate being invited.
Yeah, Dr. Sasser, thanks so much. Guys, we have one more segment on today's Wake Up Our Faith in Business. Many thanks to Dr. Sasser and Title Wellness. Matt and Kevin, back for more right after this. Hello, and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith in Business. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, wrapping up. And what a great show today. I just got to say that. Just from top to bottom, all the way around, just felt really good. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Appreciate you guys joining us. We are live in the Standard Glass Studios here at Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 FM. Many thanks to Dr. Stephen Sasser. He and his wife, Dr. Lampier. That she kept Lampier her maiden name, I believe. Just and if folks are looking, just to make sure they make that distinction. Mm-hmm. But Title Wellness, Kev. What I love about it so much is God continues to confirm and reveal in relationships what we have felt and are seeing about the move of God in this city and in the world to change the model that we have consistently become kind of captive by almost.
Yeah, yeah. Our the old way is over, and we're not just saying that. We're living it out and pushing those fence posts out a little further every day and week and month, and it's hard because people do throw rocks, and but I think the greatest thing, aside from helping people and encouraging and mentoring, teaching, all of that, is to bring examples in of people who are doing it as well, and so we support that.
Yes.
Because this is our Faith in Business Hour, so it's just a great thing to have launched recently, and God just keeps bringing people who they're ready for the new way to do this, to live it out. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful to me because once you see it expressed in other people, you just know it. And so part of this is a recognition, as you say, there's no junior Holy Spirit.
That's right.
When you recognize, when the Spirit recognizes it itself, it's like, across, hey man, there you are, I see you, It's like when I run into you at like Panera randomly or something, it's like, hey, there's Kevin. You see that in people.
Right.
You feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it. And so wanting to highlight these people that are living this way is really a big part of our cause.
Yeah.
And really become a champion for these folks and just say that, hey, this is the way it's moving, and we want to be on the forefront of that. So to our listeners, if you have somebody that you know of that's an entrepreneur, a business owner, or just somebody who's living uncharacteristically outside of the box, pursuing that thing that God placed in them, tell us about it. Like, let us know. We want to become like a conduit for that type of stuff.
Yeah, don't send people that are afraid to alienate their clients, though, because
right.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it.
Kevin might.
I will.
Oh,
well, so Chick-fil-A, that great example that they've got people lined up around the block at noontime. They're not afraid, and so we hold them in high regard of just a courageous business model that lives out their faith, and they do it through innovation and excellence and great service. And man, Jesus is all over that place. So you got other places. Yeah, we don't want to. We're going to alienate, and our customers, they don't really want to hear about Jesus. Well, so don't bring those people. I'm saying it. Because we just don't share that.
It's just wrapped in a dishonoring of the glory of God.
That's right.
He created us not to live segregated, parceled off lives.
That's right.
Where we go, I'm a Christian, but that's fear.
Right.
It's absolutely and completely fear. Yeah. And as long as you're letting fear drive your business decisions, they will never be wise.
That's right. There's no wisdom in that.
We talked about the first hour, Kevin, the question was, can I fulfill my life's purpose without fully surrendering to God? And the answer, of course, was absolutely not. Yeah. And yet people go, well, I've got this great business and, it's successful. And it's like, great, but it will be dust if it doesn't have eternity in mind.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's the thing that we do when we walk by sight. And again, it kind of goes back to this whole accidental thing. I mean, look, accidental hypocrisy is still hypocrisy.
Right.
You run a stop sign on accident and kill somebody, it's still a bad thing. So, we need to recognize that, but we also need to understand the heart of it, so we can grab hold of it and start walking it out in a different way. Faith in business does not mean that you have to preach from your desk. And whatever that looks like in that weird place, it's just not that. It is living out the desires of your heart through your gift set, through the passions God put in you to live and bless other people. You already have genius in you.
Yeah.
And most people are vocationally attempting to exercise that or to employ that. So we help you do that. We help you reconcile your faith in your business life. You can do it, and we'll get you to the finish line, and that really matters. So this isn't Tony Robbins and John Maxwell or even Dave Ramsey, who we love. We will spend individual time with you, walking it out with you. And, these other guys, the famous people, they're not going to do that. But we will. So there's a big difference there. But anyway, that's all I had.
One of the things that I remember Dr. Sasser said that was really powerful is when he was in traditional medicine, he did not have the time to spend with the people that needed it because it was a system that said, let us get to the next person.
Yeah.
That is what has happened in culture with both religious institutions and these personal development gurus because there's this machine that's been created that we have to keep up with. And the number one thing that's preventing true discipleship is the ability to spend one-to-one time with people to go through their individual needs.
That's right.
And that's the thing that Kevin, you have been gifted to do and will do to anybody who's hungry.
Yeah.
And so when you see these parallels of, man, in culture, people aren't getting the medical attention they need because doctors don't have time. People aren't getting the spiritual counsel they need because, churches and pastors, they don't have time. What we're trying to do is restore and redeem that time.
Yeah.
And that's what God does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the parable. I'm not talking biblical parable, but it's an old story, and I'll butcher it. But there's a guy that he was just hanging out on an island and he fished and he loved it. He did that every day, and he had a boat and a way to fish, and he did that, and that's what he did. So because he was successful, he was catching fish. Someone come along and said, "Hey, if you doubled your boats, you could increase your resources, income, and et cetera." So he thought, well, why not? And so he listened to that, which is kind of the worldview of it's all about business, it's all about gain and that instead of peace of mind. But ultimately, in the story, the guy got lots of boats and all this, and he was spending all his time doing everything he didn't want to do so that he could eventually get back to do what he actually wanted to do, which was just fish.
Yes.
Just fish. So for Dr. Sasser and his family and his business, they went back to just fishing, which is caring for people.
Yes.
And the heart of that is the brilliance of Jesus, and that's what we want to promote. It's not preaching from your desk. It's living out who you are.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me, I have a friend who they were a pastor, and they just left. They just stepped down after being in the, whatever you would call it, in that position for 20-some years. And I asked them, I said, why did that happen? And they said, I found myself spending 90% of my time with Christian people talking about processes and organizational services and all this kind of stuff. And I'm seriously like, so you left because 90% of your time was spent around believers talking about creating process. And I was like, wow, that's eye-opening. That's eye-opening. So we have to pay attention to the move of God that's getting back to spending time being who you are doing what it is that only you can do.
Yeah. Well, that's right. A lot of times God has left the building and the preaching goes on. But you are the building that he lives in, and that's straight up scripture. So if you believe that and stand on that, look, this is an amazing life you can live. So, but where do you spend most of your time in business? We also want to promote the Life Center.
Yes.
While we got a chance here.
Yeah, that's our nonprofit entity and organization that is about eradicating spiritual poverty here in the city of Wilmington by truly discipling people, helping them uncover their genius and live it out in the world.
Yeah.
We of course, a nonprofit, so you guys can partner with us in that endeavor. Yeah. We've got great resources to be able to do that.
Well, our one-on-one discipleship, mentoring, coaching, all kinds of modalities within that. It's a tax-deductible donation, but so you help what we're doing, but you get an amazing service to help transform your life.
And it also allows you to sponsor and partner with people who can receive this encouragement on a daily basis. So it's about outreach and giving back. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. You can check that out at our site, youprint.life, youprint.life. Kevin, great show today. Before we close, I have to recognize Dr. Greg Veman, Seacoast Skin Surgery, one of our partners here. Dr. Veman has his ministry, Everlasting Strength, 910-256-2100. Many thanks, Dr. Veman.
Thanks,
Kev,
Greg.
Thanks today, brother. That was awesome. Appreciate you guys being here. We will see you next week for Wake Up Our Faith.